Kaulig Racing may be about to drop one of the biggest NASCAR silly season surprises in quite some time. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, midweek edition of the show. We've got some NASCAR news to get to. We'll take a couple of your comments from out of the crowd. We've also got some wild rumors running rampant regarding Kaulig Racing. But before we get to all that, I think it's best if we address the recent updates regarding NASCAR legend Ken Squier. Dave Moody of MRN SiriusXM NASCAR Radio recently provided updates on Ken Squier's health. Sadly, things do not seem to be progressing in a positive direction. Most recently, yesterday morning, Dave Moody shared this update. Latest update from the Squier family. Ken is now in hospice care with plans to move him from hospital to home tomorrow, where he will spend whatever time remains. Thanks so much for the many prayers being offered up. Very sad situation, although it has been nice the past 24, 48 hours or so to see the outpouring of support for Ken Squier, recognizing not only him as a person, also his legacy as a NASCAR broadcaster. I'll put a link in the description below, but I saw NASCAR Man on Twitter posted just a neat, highlight reel, tribute maybe, showing off some of Ken Squier's broadcasting greatness. During his career, Ken Squier was the voice of NASCAR for not just one, but probably several generations of NASCAR fans. From MRN to CBS, radio to TV, everywhere in between, Ken Squier was an integral part of NASCAR's tremendous growth in the late 20th century. Wishing both him and his family and his friends nothing but the very best here over the next several days. Just wanted to share that update with you all. I know it's the off season, but now let's focus towards some on-track NASCAR news. Silly season still in full swing. Yesterday, Kyle Weatherman announced that he will join DGM Racing. He will drive the number 91 Chevy full-time in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Weatherman ran 13 races with DGM this past season, a part-time role. He managed to score half a dozen top 20 finishes. Weatherman also raced part-time for JD Motorsports, Our Motorsports. He got around this past year. I don't know Kyle Weatherman too well personally. I think I've met him maybe once, but everything I hear about Kyle Weatherman tells me he is a great race car driver who more often than not gets more out of his equipment than it's typically capable of. I do know that Kyle Weatherman has been doing simulator work for Hendrick Motorsports for at least a couple of years, if not longer. So clearly some of the biggest and best NASCAR teams around have taken notice of Kyle Weatherman's talent. I'm excited that he's got a stable, competitive, full-time seat for next season. Hopefully we see that 91 car inside the top 10 more times than not. Maybe that's too steep a goal. Let's start with some top 20s. Bang out a few top 20s in a row, maybe a top 15 here or there. Then we can start talking top 10s. Now, when you and I both think about DGM, think about the Xfinity Series, first name we probably think of is Josh Williams. He's driven the 92 car the past few seasons, became famous or maybe infamous this past spring when he parked his car on the start-finish line at Atlanta Motor Speedway, went viral. Josh Williams has not confirmed his 2024 plans just yet, but his name is now being tied to one of the top teams in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Yesterday, Chris Rice, team president of Kaulig Racing, released a short sort of video on X. He's known to do this. He loves to engage. He loves to interact directly with the fans. And in this clip, he said,
"You never know. We might have an announcement on 11/16. Never mind."
So it sounds like tomorrow, Kaulig Racing will have a very special announcement. We've been waiting patiently. Where will AJ Allmendinger end up? He wants to stay in the Cup Series, but it's a business. He understands that. He's a team player. He'll race Xfinity if that's where Kaulig wants him. Other than Daniel Hemrick to the 31 in Cup, Kaulig Racing has been pretty tight-lipped about their future plans. Well, where did Josh Williams fit into this? The red-hot rumor this week is that Josh Williams is going to Kaulig Racing, at least to their Xfinity Series program. I've seen this rumor floating about. People who I think would be in the know have told me that Josh Williams is expected to sign with Kaulig. Like, everyone just kind of knows it at this point. I guess we'll know for sure in like about 24 hours or so, but wow, talk about a silly season shocker. I mean, absolutely no disrespect to Josh Williams, but an opportunity like this, potentially, just doesn't really happen to a guy like him. Solid race car driver for sure. There is talent there, but he's 30 years old. He's not really a top prospect. And at least until recently, I never thought of Josh Williams as being someone who has, millions and millions of dollars of family funding or corporate funding behind him. Let's be honest, in the Xfinity and Truck Series especially, the top rides often go to the highest bidder. Most of the drivers in top Xfinity seats either have family funding or have close ties to major corporate sponsors that are able to fund their racing endeavors. I'm sorry, I don't know that much about Josh Williams. He never struck me as one of those kinds of guys. So wherever he's finding this funding, perhaps, good for him. This is a fantastic opportunity. Again, an opportunity that 30-year-old drivers who spent years in mid-pack equipment don't typically get. These stories do not happen very often. I mean, Josh Williams is coming off a solid 2023 season. Went viral, obviously, for the move at Atlanta, but, he had a few top 10s over the past few years. I think Williams and that 92 team have become known for punching above their weight class from time to time. So, solid driver. Now, supposedly, he's going to get a great opportunity. I hope he excels. I'd love to see Josh Williams do great things with Kaulig next year. That's going to be a fun group to root for. We'll talk more about this if and when it becomes official, maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday. For the time being, I guess I'll just remind everyone that these are only rumors, so take everything with a grain of salt, although this rumor is pretty dang salty. Speaking of salty, not everyone agreed with my take earlier this week that Daniel Suarez may be on the hot seat going into 2024. The other day, I pointed to the fact that Trackhouse has SVG, Zane Smith, Chastain, Suarez all under contract, but for the time being, they've only got 2 Cup seats, and I don't see a clear path towards them getting a 3rd or 4th one. So I suggested that Daniel Suarez is under a lot of pressure to perform, especially if Zane Smith and Shane Van Gisbergen show they're the real deal early next season. I got many comments on this, some agreeing, some disagreeing with my take. Let's take a couple of those comments from out of the crowd, because I guess I have narcissistic tendencies. We'll start with a comment that mostly agrees with my take. This comes from I Need Milkster. They say, I think Suarez has been on the hot seat since his elimination in the round of 12 last year, and especially after Ross made it to the Final Four. Overall, Suarez had a really bad year, aside from nearly pointing his way in. He had a streak of bad finishes and DNFs in the middle part of the regular season. While I don't think Suarez needs to win a race, he needs to either stay close to the cut line or make the playoffs in points. These next 2 seasons are going to be a testament of his career. If he doesn't rise up, his career might be in the dumpster. He can't afford to be dropped by a 3rd high-class team. I don't know about that last part. He may still be able to afford it. We've seen much less talented drivers stick around in NASCAR for a lot longer. But overall, I Need Milkster here mostly agrees with my take, although they're going in a little hard. Not pulling any punches, saying Suarez had a bad season last year. He's been on the hot seat for over a year. I don't agree with that point because Suarez did sign an extension at the start of this year, after his round of 12 elimination. I think 2022 was just a high point for Trackhouse all around. They weren't focused on the little details like, Suarez didn't win quite as much as Chastain, didn't make it quite as far in the playoffs. They were just thrilled to have 2 cars in the playoffs through the first round. I think this year they started to look a little more critically at their driver lineup, and they could see that Suarez, week to week, more often than not lagged behind his teammate Ross Chastain. They went out and signed these other 2 drivers with nowhere to put them. They were able to strike an odd deal with Squier for the time being for Zane Smith. Shane Van Gisbergen's happy with a part-time deal for now, but even he said he wants to go full-time Cup by 2025. So I just think when push comes to shove, Trackhouse will need to make a hard decision. Daniel Suarez's seat is warming up. I don't know what his contract looks like. I bet he's currently under contract through 2025, although maybe there's like a team option in there. I could see that. I want to be fair on this show, so there are some comments who disagreed, saying, no, there's no way Trackhouse is going to drop Daniel Suarez. He's their guy. They built around him. He was their anchor going back to 2021, and I get that. This was a good comment here from Ponies with Scarves. They said, I'm sure Trackhouse does not want to get rid of Suarez if they can help it. He's the whole reason Pitbull is there, and Pitbull does so much for relevance and popularity, never mind his massive amounts of money. I think Trackhouse would be reluctant to risk letting Pitbull go. This is a good point. This is a good point. No doubt, Daniel Suarez being there helped bring Pitbull in. Pitbull is huge in the Latin community, the Latin American community, and I think Daniel Suarez has been embraced by many in the Latin American community these past few years. I wish I knew exactly how financially invested Pitbull is into the team. He's obviously embraced it. He wears Trackhouse quite literally on his sleeve. He named his most recent album Trackhouse. But as much as Pitbull may preach, you love everyone, positivity this, positivity that, when it comes down to business, I wouldn't be surprised if Pitbull was the type of guy, or at least Pitbull's team, I should say, were the type of people to be willing to make the hard decisions. So I could see this as well. Daniel Suarez feels very much ingrained into Trackhouse's DNA at the moment. But like I said earlier this week, Trackhouse has gotten a taste of success. They're looking to go bigger. They want their brand, their team, the success to be bigger. Sometimes you got to make hard decisions. So we'll see. I don't want it to sound like I'm digging Daniel Suarez's grave or anything like that. He's got a whole year ahead of him to do great things, to contend for wins, to make the playoffs. He does all that. I don't think Trackhouse lets him go. I think they'll do everything they can to hold on to Daniel Suarez and find some other place for SVG, Zane Smith, whomever. So that's what we should be focusing on. Daniel Suarez is more than capable of putting together a great 2024 season. That should be the focus. Go do that. Fun stuff. That's actually one of the things I like about the offseason is we can kind of talk about whatever we want. There's no race imminent. We don't have to talk about New Hampshire this coming weekend. We can talk about whatever we want. Like we can talk about Kevin Harvick buying Ricky Bobby's house. That's right. I don't know if y'all saw this on social media yesterday, but according to the Charlotte Business Journal, Kevin Harvick has bought the house, the mansion that was used in the film Talladega Nights for $6.75 million. Although apparently that's a good deal. The Lake Norman property was originally listed at over $8 million. So, all right, okay, that's a pretty nice discount. Good deal. No wonder they call him the closer. I like to imagine that Kevin Harvick has no idea that this house was used in Talladega Nights. Like, he's completely oblivious. He's going to host, like, housewarming parties, and people are going to say, hey, I know why you bought this house. And Harvick's going to look at them like, well, yeah, it has a great view of the lake. What do you mean? He's going to be so confused. Anyway, that's just where my mind goes. He probably is aware. Maybe he bought this house for the memes. Family Halloween costume idea next year. Keelan can come at you like a spider monkey. Very random, but pretty entertaining, hopefully. Thank you all so much for tuning into this episode. That's all I've got. Leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We talk NASCAR all year long. Regular season, playoffs, off season, does not matter. And a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters as well. Got a couple of fun videos planned in the coming days. Thanks again for watching, folks. I will catch you in the next episode.